on this side is another little rascal that it doesn't do you, I don't believe, any good. And I don't know of any real reliable means of controlling these things, but they're slugs. And I've got a photo here of what the slugs do. Right over here is a cereal rye seed in my hand, and you see how there's that hole on that seed? That's the germ end of the seed. And so the first time I saw this, I'm like, why is the germ end of every one of these seeds got this hole in it? And then you'd kind of like squeeze the seed, and it would be just kind of mush. I'm like, what on earth is going on? And I'm thinking, all these things are going through my mind. I'm like, okay, I augured the seed. The tumbling of the auger, did it knock the germ end off? And then by the time it came out of the airplane, it's busted up. So the very next thing we did was we ran it through the auger, and I held it in my hand, and the seed's perfect. And I'm thinking, well, it can't be the auger. I mean, people auger rye seed dozens of times, so then I thought, okay, maybe it's the process of coming out of the spreader of the airplane that's beating it up. Well, you put some seed out, walk out and look at the seeds immediately after the airplane flies over, and all the seeds are in good shape. This problem, my mystery was solved when I saw this. What this is a slug wrapped around a cereal rye seed, and that's the slug's mouth part, and it's eating the germ end of the seed. I put some seed out at the airport at Waupun about 3 years ago, and it was for the purposes of seeing if I could lay seed on top of the soybean leaves and have it work. So I picked a really dense stand of soybeans that were really tall, and I waited till all the leaves fell off, and then I seeded it. That was the reason for going out there. This is the field I'm standing in, and I'm trying to figure out why all the seeds are beat up. It started out as a soybean experiment and turned into what the heck is going on here. Well, what was going on, and I watched this very, very closely, and when we discovered it, we got a hold of the UW, and we got a hold of NRCS and other parts of the state, and we were able to identify that, yes, the slugs are eating the germ end of the seed. If you have slugs in any serious level of population, and you're putting out particularly cereal rye, they will eat it. They're going to eat all of it. If the slugs are there, they will systematically, I've watched them, I've actually been on my knees watching, and they crawl to the next cereal rye seed. We had the UW at a field that I put out cereal rye, and they had 20% feeding in 36 hours. 20% of the seed had that heat. So one thing we learned was, and I would explain why we're having such good luck with spring barley. Spring barley has a husk around the end. The mouth part of the slug has a harder time chewing through that husk and getting to the actual germ than on a bare cereal rye or wheat seed. So what do you do about this? There's no university recommendation what to do about it, because we're just figuring out what on earth is happening, right? If you're going to put cereal rye out in the field, you need to scout for the slugs. It's that simple. Now, scouting for slugs is not a complicated process. You pick a couple low areas in the field, bring a piece of plywood with you, or a piece of cardboard, lay it out there, leave it for 24 hours, come back to that, lift it up, and then I'm telling you, if you got slugs, you won't be able to count them. There's that many. If you don't have slugs, they won't be there. It's that simple. Is there a threshold per square foot? No, nobody's established it, because this is kind of a new concern, right? If you have the slugs, the only thing that we've been able to do to beat the slugs is put the seed out right in front of a rain, get the seed germinated and growing before they have time to eat the germ off of every seed. That's all we've been able to really do if you have them. This now explains why we had such good luck on sand. On sandy soil, this has not been a problem. Now, slugs are a cyclical pest. They aren't a pest that are there every fall. In 2011, 2012, and 2013, we had dry falls. If the soil is generally dry, the slugs don't come to the surface. 14, 15, 16, we had wet falls, damp soils on top. They're up there crawling around. Same with the earthworms. They're up there crawling around when the surface of the soil is damp. So let's say, for instance, you may have slugs, but if your soil's on the surface is dry enough, they're just not coming up to the surface anyway. So it's a variable that just has to be, you have to know it in order to know what to do. If you've got this is why I keep pushing our services in silage corn so much, because in silage corn you go out there with spring barley. And the fact of the matter is the spring barley germinates faster, grows faster, and it's harder for the slug to eat. And that's really why this has been so reliable, is because we accidentally get that kind of seed in that environment. So we covered predators, right? Now there's another issue, right? So corn grain residue. Now what I'd like to be able to tell you about this slide is that I flew that on and I drew that line with the airplane, right? I'm so precise that I could do that. Well, obviously what happened here was I seeded this entire field all the way over to this fence line. And the producer harvested the silage corn up to this point and the bunkers were full. So this corn became either grain corn or high moisture corn, right? This is a photo right here that was taken right here. So we had a cover crop established here. Beautiful cover crop established there, right? They came along and harvested this corn and chopping heads are a little worse than a standard head, but they're both a problem. What happens is you've got the cover crop established, you come along and you harvest the corn, and you do this in mid-November, and you lay all that residue on top of the cover crop. The day length is short and the temperatures are cold. There's not enough heat units or day length for that plant leaf to get through the residue to get back to the sunlight.